turn to one of our top stories now, and for the first time the International Criminal Court has charged someone with the war crime of destroying cultural monuments. The case is linked to the destruction of desert shrines in the Malian city of Timbuktu in 2012. Well, for more on the crime of destroying cultural monuments, we can cross live to New York to speak to the Director General of UNESCO, Irina Bokova. Welcome to the programme. This is the first case of its kind by the ICC. How do you go about bringing a case like this forward?
I think this is an extremely important decision of the Chief Prosecutor of the ICC, Madame Fatou Bensouda. I congratulate her. It is important to end the impunity of the destruction of heritage. We are seeing nowadays too many systematic, deliberate destruction of heritage, of culture, of persecution of people, of minorities, and particularly in this case in Mali, we have been working, UNESCO and the Chief Prosecutor's Office, in order to bring to justice the perpetrators of these crimes. In fact, according to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, Article 8 speaks about the fact that deliberate destruction of such heritage is a war crime. And I think it is particularly important now, with everything that we see in Syria and Iraq, to say we have to end the impunity and all the criminals have to be brought to justice.
How can you justify calling the destruction of buildings a war crime when there are large numbers of civilian deaths in conflict zones all over the world that just simply don't get the same recognition?
Oh, I think that it goes hand in hand with the persecution of people, with the huge humanitarian crisis. I think this is part of the humanitarian crisis. We have seen what happened in Mali. I was in Mali at the very first 2 weeks with President Francois Hollande when the extremists were chased away from Timbuktu and from other parts. I saw the destruction myself. I saw how much the communities, the local communities, suffered from this destruction because it is part of their daily life. It is part of their identity. It is part of what they are. And the same, I think, holds true of what is happening in Syria and Iraq. I saw how people were devastated when they saw the manuscripts being burned, manuscripts which contain the millennium wisdom of Islamic culture, of astronomy, of philosophy, of medicine. And that is why I do believe that destruction of heritage, deliberate, systematic destruction of heritage, is part of the humanitarian crisis. In fact, why extremists are doing that? Because they know that history will delegitimize them. And this is why they're doing it.
Does UNESCO consider this then to be a milestone in preserving culture and heritage?
I think yes. I think it is extremely important. I think that impunity has to be ended. And I think we are seeing nowadays too much deliberate, systematic, as I said, destruction, something that I call cultural cleansing, and justice should be there. We have been working, UNESCO, our team has been working with the team of the Chief Prosecutor from the very first moment of this destruction in Mali. In fact, we have turned to the International Criminal Court, to the Chief Prosecutor. Equally, we have also turned to her office with everything that is happening in Syria and Iraq, the destruction around World Heritage Sites in Hatra, in Nimrud, in Palmyra nowadays. At the end of the day, I think this is really an extremely important message that we are sending to all criminal activity around heritage and culture.
We've seen large buildings and statues being destroyed, but it is known that terrorists are stealing smaller artefacts to sell them for considerable sums on the black market. How easy is it to sell artefacts like this? And what kind of buyers are we talking about?
Well, I think this is the probably darker, also not very well known side of this extremist activity. This is the looting and the illicit trafficking of these objects. Let me just mention that already in February, the Security Council of the United Nations adopted a very important resolution. We worked hard with the Security Council for its adoption on the financing of extremism. Because the illicit trafficking of oil, of drugs, of human beings, including of cultural objects, is financing extremism and terrorism. At the end of the day, persecution of people, of minorities, and suffering the humanitarian crisis. So We are very much focused nowadays of stopping this illicit trafficking. We're working with the Interpol, with the International Customs Organization. 33 countries already have adopted very special measures, legislative, strengthening of institutions, exchanging information. Almost every day we see that at some point in the world, because it is a global challenge, that there are such artifacts being seized. The difficulty here, of course, and we have to recognize it, are immense. The difficulty is first and foremost that there is so much illicit archaeological excavations. We sometimes don't know what is taken out of this rich land of heritage. And this is where we are creating a special task force of experts so that they could, in cases of emergencies, they could help identify these artifacts that may appear somewhere in the world on the art market.
And of course, Irina Bokova, those pieces that are lost under the black market trade, very difficult to track. Do you have any hope at all that those artifacts will make it back into the hands of archaeologists or indeed museums?
I am much more optimistic nowadays when I see so much global mobilization. First and foremost, we should not forget that a resolution of the Security Council falls under Chapter 7 of the Charter of the United Nations. It means threat to peace and security. And it is not just only a cultural concern. I think nowadays we see that tracking this illicit trafficking is part of the security concern of so many countries and of the United Nations Security Council. I see that there is a global mobilization. I see also that the art market is responding more and more positive to this. And of course, the global campaign that I have launched earlier this year, going to Baghdad at the University of Baghdad, Unite for Heritage, when the message is, it is immoral, it is unethical, it is just not right. And of course, trafficking such objects is a direct threat to peace and security. I think this is an extremely important message.
What are you hoping to get out of this trial, as in the end result? And is there anything that UNESCO can do to stop this from happening again?
Well, I'm expecting, and I would like to congratulate once again the Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda. I think it is an extremely important message. It is the first ever such trial after the adoption of the Rome Statute that deliberate destruction of heritage will be brought also to the International Tribunal. It is an extremely important message that we have to end the impunity. It is not as innocent as some people may think. Destruction of heritage is a war crime, and it has to be taken very seriously by the International Criminal Court.
Okay, Irina Bokova in New York, thank you very much.